Roundabouts are becoming a popular solution to solve the problem of traffic control at intersections. And for good reason. They're cheaper, they're more efficient, and most importantly, they're safer than traditional intersections. But until now, we really have not had many tools, or at least cost-effective solutions, to help engineers design them. Wouldn't it be great if there was a cost-effective solution out there to help you design roundabouts in a more effective way? Well, introducing Autodesk Vehicle Tracking, or AVT for short. AVT is a solution that sits on top of all AutoCAD-based applications as well as MicroStations 8i. And as you can see here, I'm using Civil 3D for this example. And Civil 3D, since it is an AutoCAD-based application, the ribbon that loads with vehicle tracking will show us tools for swept path analysis, or parking lot tools, or junctions like roundabouts. And in this video, we're going to focus on roundabouts. So just to show you that we don't necessarily need Civil 3D data in surfaces and alignments and profiles to create geometry using the roundabout tools, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create two polylines that are creating a four-way intersection, a traditional four-way intersection. Now, the first step is to select the actual intersection standard that we'd like to use, and right now I'll use a FHWA 2010 Rural Single Lane Roundabout. I'm going to check off all of the specified information that I want in my drawing settings, like the surfaces that we want to use, or whether I want to create corridors or not. For now, we're not going to, and I can also use specific road marking settings. We're going to set this to vehicle tracking since we're not using Line Design Pro here in this video. I'm going to say OK. Now all I need to do is just name the junction and set my appearance. We'll keep the default name of Junction 1, as well as set monochrome for dark backgrounds. This is just going to help optimize my viewing experience while I lay out the roundabout. And we will specify existing ground and say OK. Now we're just using this for two-dimensional layout purposes, so the ground really doesn't matter. But in this case, I'm going to select our first leg, now our second leg, third leg, and so on. And you can see, if you've done this before, you're already noticing that this is much faster than any other solution that you probably tried in the past. And it's dynamic, meaning that I can change the location, the center line maybe of this roundabout, and it will automatically still read the center of those polylines that I lay out. Now they're polylines. Remember, they are not Civil 3D alignments. They're just simple polylines. And yet the roundabout tools are intelligent even to those polylines. So let's move over to our actual alignments with profile data, and let's take a look at what we have here. Now, if I were to do the same thing, I'm going to select a rural single lane roundabout, use my defaults. In fact, I am going to just change this and say OK and select my location. I'll go through all of the different legs on my roundabout, and we'll take a look at what is actually being created. Now, yes, we do have a dynamic roundabout, so I can change the physical location of the center, as well as many other nodes. You can see here that we have what we call our heads-up display, and the heads-up display gives us information based on the roundabout and our design speeds. Now, I can go in here and I can make adjustments to my radius. I can make adjustments maybe to, you can see here, the adjust center line offset icon. If I can just move this node and it will adjust the center line offset based on the center. As you can see here, it's at 15.29. We can move that out to maybe 18.45, and it will adjust the center line offset of my incoming lanes on our fourth leg, which is called First Street in this case. So that's one way to make edits, but another way to make edits simply would be to edit the roundabout. And we can go in here, we get this really fantastic dialog box that helps us to go through each leg or the roundel, our preferences. If we maybe look at one of our legs, the approach we can change, maybe our design speed, or crown lane blend offset. You can see the crown lane blend offset is red. That means that there's a problem there based on our design standards. So let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's go down to 40, and you can see that now we're within our specific standards. You can see we have a crown line blend offset that's also too high, and you can see based off of the icons here what we're actually changing. You notice that if I move this over here for a second, that I'm changing lane width. So if I want a 12-foot lane width here, then I can do that. I want a 12-foot lane width here, I can do that. Let's set this to 40 as well, and hit apply. You can see that we're now within our constraint minimums. Now, this is a really easy interface to use, and you can see that we can do many, many different things to edit the roundabout based off of standards. But we can also go in here and we can create a corridor from this roundabout. I don't want to get there just quite yet, so we're going to come back to this. I'm going to say close, and we're just going to take a look at this roundabout. And you can see here that there's a couple of other options. Up in our dialog box for junctions, we can add new roads, which would add a leg. We can add splitter islands. We can do things like crosswalks. Maybe I want to add a crosswalk about this location here. Now, what's interesting about the crosswalk that I just added, not just does it graphically add your crosswalk, but it also changed our signage. You see here that we have a sign that specifically signals a crosswalk, and our roundabout or rotary, if you're from the Northeast, signage is actually been moved up. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. Notice that the roundabout sign is here. We do have a yield sign here. I'm going to add another crosswalk. So we're going to add a crosswalk right about here in this location, and you can see just again that now we have signage specifically for that crosswalk, as well as our roundabout signs have been moved. Now if I want to change the location of this crosswalk or the orientation, I can simply do that. If I want to change maybe the location, I can do that, or if I want to change the width, I can do that. It's all based off of your preferences in specific design. But note, we laid out this roundabout based on federal highway standards in seconds. Okay? Now, I've been teasing you about the corridors, so let's take a look at corridors. I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to go to my Edit Roundabout tool again. We'll go back to corridors, and I'll say Create Alignments. What that does is it also allows us to create profiles, create corridors, update alignments, update profiles, update corridors, and use curb baselines. So I can use a simple road assembly, or I can use what the default, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. But for now, let's just say rebuild now. As it's processing, it's actually in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. You can see that it's building out a corridor live for you right now. So you can see here, once I'm done, I'm going to say close, and now we've created a advanced corridor. You can see here we have our grading on the edge of the road. If I were to take this into my object viewer and look at this in 3D, you'll notice that it is a three-dimensional corridor with all of the appropriate assemblies and sub-assemblies to have created this corridor. You can see here how advanced this corridor actually is based off of the simple process that we just executed. Now, how you refine the grading, how you refine the layout is all based off of using the dialog box to control the roundabout. Now, hopefully you can see that combined with Civil 3D, Autodesk Vehicle Tracking's roundabout Swept Path and Parking Lot Tools really are your one-stop shop for transportation design needs.